Hey guys, Matt here. I am back out at a different field this time, going for a little bit different backdrop. This is part 2 of my longest forehand distance driver competition. If you missed part 1, I'm going to link below in the description. Check that one out if you want to see me throw a bunch of different drivers from other companies. These are the 7 that made it through the round from 14 down to 7. We have the Westside VIP Warhorse, the Elasto Enforcer, Kastaplast K1 Rask, Latitude 64, Opto Stiletto, ESP Zeus from Discraft, the Innova Star Destroyer, and the Discmania PD2 C line. I'm hoping that this field works because it's got a different backdrop with a lot higher trees, so you should be able to see the disc a little bit better. In my last video, there was a white metal building at the end, and I tried a higher angle on top of the car to try to fix the visibility, but it didn't work all that well. So, trying a different field. Conditions are not great today. It's pretty wet. Footing is going to be a little uneasy, so if the throws aren't quite as long as last time, I won't be shocked. I'm going to try to do 5 throws with each of these discs. Let's get going. Between the rain, the wind, no skip, and the lack of footing, those were all pretty terrible. The best ones, and I say use that term loosely, were the Destroyer and the Warhorse. They were both around 408 feet. There was a bunch of those that I turned over really bad. I may cut it or I may not, but right before I threw the first throw, I almost busted it. So I'm trying a slightly different spot on the ground here, and hopefully we can get some good throws in. We'll chalk that up to warm up. Those were a touch better, but still pretty rough. I got a good one with the Rask at 415 and the Enforcer at 405. So those two, along with the Warhorse and the Destroyer, in the lead at the moment. But we're narrowing it down to 3, and I got 3 throws left with each of them. So hopefully I can get at least one good throw with all of these guys. The weather's getting worse, the headwind's getting more intense, so hopefully the combination of me being afraid to fall down and the wind turning some of these over at high speeds is not going to affect it too badly, but I don't know if I'll be seeing any 500-foot throws today. Okay, on that round, I actually had a couple throws that were actual distance drives for the first time, in my opinion. The Rask and the Warhorse went The Rask went 455 and the Warhorse was 449. That's getting to what I would call a respectable distance. It wouldn't have moved, the Rask would move through if that was the previous round in our mild conditions with no wind, warmer weather, and it was very dry. But today, that could win it. So we got 2 more rounds for the rest of these to prove themselves. You might have seen, I thought I threw the Zeus well on that one. It flipped up and rode really well. It was barely 400 feet. So, see if we can do a little better. Very frustratingly, none of those throws were very good. Only the Warhorse broke 400, and it's already more than likely secured its place in the final. So if it were to end right now, it would be Rask, Warhorse, Destroyer in that order. But I've got one more shot. I've learned the disc a little bit. I've turned them all 4 times now. I've dealt with these conditions a little bit now. I'm trying a slightly different spot, hoping that it's not as ruined as my spot about 20 feet that direction that I was using, and hopefully can get some good throws with the ones I have not thrown that well yet. I really didn't plan on round 2 being rainy and wet and gross conditions with a headwind, but you know, maybe you guys playing either in the south like this, where this is what our winter will start to be like, or the Pacific Northwest out in Portland and Seattle where I played a good bit. I can see Dabney Park or Dexter down in Eugene looking a lot like this in a month or so. Maybe this will be instructive for people in those areas. But first off, we're gonna start with the disc. We're gonna have to say goodbye to the Opto Stiletto. It snuck in with a surprise great throw in round 1. Today, it only broke 350 once. Goodbye. C-Line PD2, great disc. I think the grip on this one hurt a little bit. I couldn't grip the hard C-Line plastic as well in this wet, and as a result I was turning it over a little bit too much on almost every throw. It got close, it got to 400 one time, but unfortunately that will not cut it. The Star Destroyer, now that was my best one of the first round. It got up to 408 feet, but after that, when the wind picked up, it could not hold up to those conditions, unfortunately, and we're gonna have to say goodbye. Unfortunately, and this one bums me out because the ESP Zeus had a 522-foot throw, which is one of my top 5 longest measured throws in the first round, and I just could not get it dialed in this wind. It turned over every time, except when, if you saw, I gave it a lot of hyzer one time, and that just didn't really work out either. So great disc, not in these conditions. So moving on to the winners, that will move on to the final. Very European looking final. We have the Fluid Enforcer. The last throw was the one that won it. It was 438 feet. Would not have pushed it through round 1, but the fluid plastic I think actually helped. It's a little gummier, a little bit tackier, and made it easier to grip. I messed up several throws with it, but got a couple good ones, and that 438 will push it through. In second place, the Warhorse, my personal longest disc and favorite forehand distance driver, squeaked through with a 454 foot throw. I think I said it was 449 earlier. I checked the U-disc and it was 454, and pretty good showing overall. It was one of two to break into the past 415 twice. And finally, the winner of round two, the K1 Rask. That actually had the longest and third longest throw today at 455, squeaking out the Warhorse by a foot, and they literally landed like, it was like that in the field. The Rask was the longest one today. It also had a 441 foot throw that would have put it on either side of the Warhorse if we were doing multiples of a disc. But I think I know why it did really well today. The Rask has this really interesting double rim on the inside, and what that does is it adds stability, makes it a little more aerodynamic, but it makes it have almost no glide. What that means is it relies almost solely on speed for forward penetrating fade. So it's relying on how hard you can throw it to get through the wind. And it was going through the wind like no problem. I think that the construction of this disc and the fact that it is very overstable made it the perfect combatant for these conditions, and we'll move it on to the final. I feel kind of bad that a lot of really great discs didn't make it through, but I'm excited to throw these. What I'm going to try to do is next week, 10 throws with each, and we'll see which one reigns supreme among forehand distance drivers. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great night.